All right, everybody, welcome back to Cool Sports Chat. Today we are looking back at what was Super Wild Card Weekend, delivered 3 days, each having two football games. And then we are looking ahead at the divisional round. So we shall see. It looks like we got Grayson joining as well. Oh, there he is, Grayson himself. How you doing, Grayson?
Doing good. How you doing, Keegan?
Doing good. So it looks like we got Grayson, we got Brendan, got Bobby, and we got Scott. How is everyone doing tonight?
Just fine.
Brendan,
Just fine.
how warm is it there, Scott?
Oh, actually, it's kind of chilly up here, northern Arizona. Let's see. Look at my thermometer right now. It says 43. So that means it's what, about 50 degrees warmer than in Chicago. So that's
Yeah. I think what we would give to have 50-degree weather. We were excited to have 30-degree weather today.
Yeah.
That's how we feel tomorrow.
Oh yeah, you're a day behind us. I forget. Did you guys get the 7 feet of snow that was predicted last week?
No, we got an inch.
Okay, more in line with you. Well, let's look at the week that was. Grayson, any surprises going into this week from the wild card weekend?
Not really. If you're asking me to talk about the Browns, kind of knew that going in. I kept my expectations very minimal, and boy, did they meet them. But, I mean, every other game kind of went out the way I thought it would. But, it is what it is, and there's always next year. So.
Yeah, I picked the Browns. I actually really thought they would come out on top of that one. CJ Stroud played phenomenal. I guess we kind of saw a few defenses just like come up lackluster. One Brendan I know is very excited to talk about is the Dallas Cowboys. Brendan, how did you feel watching the Cowboys just apparently not get the memo they were playing football that day?
You know, it's sad when your stadium is named after a cell phone service. You'd think you get better coverage. In case anyone hasn't seen that one going around the internet. Yeah, I didn't give the Packers much of a chance, honestly. I didn't think Dallas was going to be an easy win, but I definitely didn't think the Packers were going to go up 27-0 at one point. That was both surprising and enjoyable. We lasted a little longer than the Cowboys in the playoffs.
Well, then we'll move to Scott. Any game that caught you by surprise this weekend?
No, not really anything. Really anything per game, I would say. But really, what did surprise me is the wide variety of the scores within the games. Chiefs won by almost 20. Obviously, Packers won by plenty. The Bills won by plenty. So let's see. The only real close game was the Lions and Rams. So I really did expect to see more closer games amongst the whole slate of games instead of really what there was.
Right, yeah. That's what I was thinking is a lot of them, it seemed they were over quite quickly. Pretty much if the team was scoring right off the bat, you knew. Like even going into what was that Sunday night when Detroit just went down and scored, even though it became a close game, you just felt the momentum completely shift to Detroit. And it felt like most teams, if they had that momentum on that first drive, it was a done deal. Bobby, what about you?
They, I knew that a lot was going to happen. I didn't know. I didn't know Green Dallas was going to lose like that though to Green Bay
Yeah, I think that was the big surprise. I know,
at home too.
right? Well, I know a lot of people were saying no 7th seed has ever beaten the
No.
2nd seed, but I was like, how long have we had the 7th seed? Like, that's not a big supplemental
now.
data there. Yeah,
You see Jimmy Johnson after for the post game show. Jimmy
Yeah.
was furious.
and he
So
got
is
me
Michael
hyped.
Irving.
The way he was talking, I was like, I might go play football for the Cowboys now. Oh man.
What if
One
he could
thing,
be a head coach again? That'd be something. They brought him back. He could really fire them up again.
well, unfortunately, Bobby, you guys have paid way too much money to Sean Payton right now to be thinking about another coach. So,
Mm-mm. No,
as much as
Jimmy of the Cowboys. I mean, Jimmy
Oh.
Johnson.
nah, well, we'll talk about coaches here in a second. Definitely think Mr. Hoodie might be going to Dallas here soon. One thing I also kind of noted this week was the amount of stadiums that me and Brendan have been to that were on display this weekend, or at least driven by, because we drove by the Dallas one. We didn't get super close, but I was like, oh yeah, we went right up to that Kansas City stadium there, and yeah, it was kind of neat. So, all right, Grayson, I'm sorry, we gotta start with your game. Browns Texans, first game of the week. What were your initial thoughts going in, and then what were your thoughts post game?
I can talk about this subject for hours, but I'll spare you the depression and the cliff notes on the Cleveland Fran life. But honestly, I thought it was going to be closer than it was. I didn't expect a blowout like what happened, but I honestly did not watch the game because I was really too afraid to see what would happen. And it kind of turned out the way I expected it. But I knew going in, I had a hope that there was going to be, a close game. But reality was kind of in the back of my mind the entire time. I mean, Joe Flacco, as good as a quarterback as he is, he's down starters. People are out with concussion protocol. People are hurt. The team itself does deserve a lot of credit, but at the same time, they duct taped themselves to the first round of the playoffs, but they just didn't have the gas to get there. So unfortunately, they just petered out at the end, and it is what it is. But if the Browns can play it smart and actually keep Joe Flacco on when everybody's healthy again, I think next year we can make a solid run for the actual, whole thing.
Yeah, see, that was going to be one of my questions because I got to ask Brendan some questions about his Eagles later. But quarterback situation, obviously, you guys can't just get rid of Mr. Watson. But do you think they'll be able to coax Joe Flacco back for another year?
I think yes. They gave him a shot. He shows that he loves being in Cleveland. Him and Kevin Stefanski gel better than I've seen any other coach and a quarterback in a very long time. I mean, they're pretty much the same person. It's better than even Belichick and Brady. I mean, Brady was just a tool that Belichick knew how to use. Joe Flacco is almost like, you hear the jokes about it all the time, that he looks exactly like Kevin Stefanski, which he does. He acts and basically executes everything as an extension of Kevin Stefanski. So I think if Kevin is willing to throw some of his leeway around in the team itself, he could probably keep Joe Flacco around over Deshaun, even though it's going to be an expensive backup quarterback.
All right. I mean, hey, if you win, you win. It kind of wipes all that under the carpet, so to say, right?
Pretty much.
So, yeah, the Texans came out victorious. Obviously, CJ Stroud, pretty impressive. The whole offense looked really good. Defense could be an issue in this next round, and we shall get to that. But let's look at the next matchup of the day, which is kind of a controversial one for one reasoning, and it was because you could only watch it on Peacock. Streaming was definitely a hot button thing and the hot new shiny toy for a lot of people a few years ago. But if you look at analytics, streaming has gone down significantly. In fact, the last analytical look at any streaming service, YouTube by far was beating even Netflix. And we know a lot of companies, Disney losing billions of dollars. So I know people are kind of worried this is where the NFL is going. I'm not so much worried. Anyone else have any thoughts on the streaming effect with the Chiefs Dolphins game?
I think it's 10 years too late. I think if they really wanted to jump on this, they should have started doing stuff with Netflix and YouTube years ago. But because all of the networks are ages behind modern technology, it shot themselves in the foot, and now they're trying to make people buy their subscription services, but nobody wants to.
Well, and someone else said, it's a money grab type deal. Even if you only do it for a month or for this one game, you're giving them your $5, and it's actually they think it's actually a smart business move, just because, it's how many people are Taylor Swift fans. Like, they're gonna, buy it just to have a chance to see her at a live game. So I don't know. I don't think that it's gonna go too much more past, just because I think, the NFC still has so many years left with Fox, and AFC has so many years left with CBS that, it's not like they can just go straight to streaming. And I know during the regular season, you could get your local NFL games on CBS on Paramount. So I think I'm okay with it if they do it like but just exclusively. Yeah.
Right. Because there was some other games that you could watch on both TV or Peacock this week. But yeah, that exclusively one I thought was kind of weird. And I know quite a bit of people, including different YouTubers, were just not watching the game because of that. So we'll see. I'm sure the NFL doesn't care, much like Amazon, where Amazon Prime loses money. They have enough money with their actual product. I don't think they really care. But it's not something I think they're going to move forward with in the future. But Brendan, speaking of Kansas City, how was the Taylor Swift sightings going on in Kansas this week?
I don't know. I didn't watch it.
You weren't out there? You weren't out there like scoping
No,
around?
it was -11. Why would I leave my house? My warm 70-degree house.
Oh, man.
I texted my boss. He was like, it's cold. And I was like, at least we're not in Montana where it's -68.
Right. Yeah. North Dakota was another one we were watching. Super cold. That was one thing me and Grace, when we were up in Rapid City, we were like so enthralled with how nice it was. And then my mom's friend Pam was like, yeah, it's nice in the summer, but the winters. She's like, yeah, a couple feet of snow, -40-degree wind chill. Yeah, it's not so much fun. Yeah. Speaking of negative temps, yeah, the Dolphins definitely, I don't know, it was kind of a painful game to watch. It wasn't icy enough to make it kind of interesting where they're slipping and sliding all around. The Chiefs were doing what they were doing, maybe a little bit better because they were limited in depth for passing. So Mahomes wasn't doing those deep shots, and the receivers had a better shot, I guess, at catching it. Mr. Rice himself had a pretty good game, but yeah, Dolphins not looking good. Did anyone watch this game besides me?
I've seen some clips, but I did not watch the actual game.
Scott, did you watch it?
I watched some of it, but then it kind of got to be almost kind of silly, and that it was clear that the Dolphins weren't going to really do much of anything, and so I moved on after that. But I did catch some, watch them slip and slide, and said, okay, that's it. That'll be it. So have a good game.
Right. Yeah, no, I struggled through that one, and it just never felt like the Dolphins. Even after Tyreek caught that touchdown, just didn't feel like they could do anything to catch up. like just in that environment. I don't know how well Kansas City is going to perform this week, but it just felt like it was tailor made for them. So that'll move us to Sunday. I know Brendan kind of talked about his excitement, definitely gave him a good start to the Sunday, but the Packers just steamrolled the Cowboys. Jerry Jones was seen just throwing things around, just very, very unhappy. I think a lot of people were projecting that there might be a coaching change by the next day. There has not been yet. Doesn't mean there won't be. Scott, did you watch this one?
Yeah, I did. And, I kind of was really impressed with the way the Packers have been developing throughout this season. Kind of like to say, you build up for your prime games come playoff time, and I think that's exactly what the Packers have done this year. Built up to be ready on and get to be on full cylinders here at the time that it's really, really important, and they've gotten there. Really, really impressed on the development of Love and how he's working as the leader of that team. So yeah, I think there's a lot to be impressed with the Packers here, especially as the season has gone on.
Right. Well, Brendan, I know you touched upon it earlier, but any thoughts related to just Green Bay and this game?
I was a little surprised, but also based off of recent history of Green Bay just seems to have Dallas's number in the playoffs. It doesn't matter who's playing and where they're playing. It's Green Bay just seems to have their number. I made the joke in the group chat earlier, Green Bay can beat Dallas, but they can't beat San Francisco. So, this will be, not an easy win, but it'll be a win for San Francisco probably just because history repeats itself. Yeah.
Bobby, any thoughts with this game?
I think San Francisco's going to win this game.
Well, we're not there yet. I meant just the Green Bay.
Green Bay. Oh yeah, game. I think Green Bay. They're going. I think they're going to go all the way. They're on a roll. There's what they did to them. What they did. I mean, they faked the whole Dallas defense out. That one guy down there, and he was gone.
Yeah, Stephon Gilmore definitely bit quite hard on that route. Grayson, any thoughts on Jordan Love's playoff experience this week?
I didn't catch much of it, but all I have to say is Cowboys fans did not have a fun time, and it is just one of the few fandoms where I can say, hey, feels good to watch them lose. But at the same time, the Cowboys we're a decent enough team, but as Brandon brought out, Green Bay just has it in for them every single time.
Right. Yeah, we saw that definitely. They brought up the Dez catch quite a bit this week. That is for sure. Or no catch. I think that wasn't that in their intro. They were like, that wasn't a catch or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, here now we can get to the one like actually close game. Dallas Rams. I said I wanted Detroit to win, but I picked the Rams just because playoffs, and I thought McVay might have their number with experience. And even coming down to the end there, I really thought the Rams were going to pull it off. It felt like the Lions were slipping towards the end. They hadn't really even done much in that second quarter, or second half, I should say. And hey, they found a way to close it out, and that's what you got to do. If you want to be a winning team, you got to close out those close victories. Scott, any thoughts on our Matthew Stafford Bowl, as they kind of coined it?
No, I think it's again. I'll say that Detroit seems is be really running on all cylinders. They got the running game and their passing game. Goff seems to be be well in charge and is being able to handle everything really well. So, yeah, I think the with the Lions and the Packers, they're going to be going a long way here this playoff season. Here, we'll see.
Right, we could have a NFC North showdown for the conference championship.
Yep.
Doesn't seem as crazy as I think a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
Right. Brendan, any thoughts on this matchup here?
I did enjoy it. It was probably my favorite game of the week. I think you said it. Tale of two halves. Because we had a whole lot of offensive firepower in the first one, and that second one just seemed to, even though it went by fast, it just still seemed to. It didn't have as much.
Mm-hmm.
And I know a couple analysts were like, during the fourth quarter, they were like, "Oh, here we go again." Detroit giving up something because they thought that LA was going to come back and win too, and I was hoping for a little more offense from Detroit in that second half, but still an enjoyable game.
Mm-hmm.
Happy
Right.
the Lions won. Yeah.
Right now, unfortunately for Dolphins fans, they now own the longest streak without a victory, which went back all the way to 2000, so 24 years. Grayson, how did you feel watching this one? I mean, I know as a Browns fan, you guys went a long way without playoff victories, so you can probably relate to the Lions fans. Any other takeaways, though?
Honestly, nothing that anybody else hasn't already said. Good game. I think it was definitely one of the best of the offseason so far. It was definitely, the Rams have had their time in the spotlight, and I think Detroit finally pulling out a first-round win for the first time in a long time is definitely inspiring, but I think at the same time, they kind of showed their hand a little early, and they look like they might be running out of gas a little bit, but I hope they can make it all the way if they can, but at the same time, we'll see what happens.
Right. Yeah, I know going to see who they're playing. I might have a hot take and a hot pick there. We'll see. It's probably more of a hot take than my Spider-Man Lotus rating, which was just a point higher than everybody else. Let's see. All right, so next one, Bills killed the Steelers. Steelers came back, tried to make it look a little bit closer. Grayson's pretty happy about that outcome. Our boy Josh Allen from Wyoming showed up, and yeah, the Bills got the job done. Tomlin stormed out of the press conference when asked about his future. Grayson, any thoughts on this Pittsburgh just dismantling in the playoffs?
Just warms my heart, and every time it happens, I love it. I'm surprised they squeaked in, but they did. But yeah, anytime Pittsburgh gets embarrassed, it's a good time for me. So, especially after what they did to Nick Chubb, I'm so glad they got eviscerated.
I know it's almost too bad that they got in, and so like the Bengals or another team that could have at least a good backup quarterback.
True.
Right? Like that was just. I know some people last week were saying it was going to be a close game, and I was like, how? How are the Steelers going into Buffalo making that close?
Yeah.
Like without their defensive players, like no way. Brendan, kind of the in-state rival to the Eagles, how did you feel about their performance?
About as expected without TJ Watt, honestly. I thought maybe that they would have run a little bit more, but I didn't get to watch a whole lot of that game with it starting at 3:30. I was still at work, so Yeah, they probably did about as what I thought they were going to do. It's not high hopes when you don't have an offensive coordinator and you're playing backups and you're without your best defensive player. Not trying to make excuses for the Steelers, but it's so yeah.
Scott, what about you?
Boy, you're looking at it as really tough day for the whole state of Pennsylvania. Wow, everybody got the two teams there, the Steelers and the Eagles, just really get throttled by here at the here in the first round of the playoffs. Um, the Bills and Steelers, um, yeah, it seemed pretty eerily there that Allen again was in control, especially when he broke off that really nice 50 some odd yard run. Um, and it was over. It was over there in the first half, and that's all you can say. Just kind of like I know we'll be talking here about Tampa Bay and Philadelphia, but again, it was just over, and so okay, see you next year.
Right. And it looks like Shane, I went to a Steelers party yesterday. Things got sad quickly, but it was a good time. Hey, as long as you're having a good time, Shane, that's what matters. So yeah, speaking of the other Pennsylvania team, Brendan, what happened to the Philadelphia Eagles? I mean, I know AJ Brown was hurt, but besides that, like, this has been a slide since Kansas City, and I was baffled. I know I picked Tampa Bay last week, but still, I thought that was just like a hot pick.
I don't know. I honestly have no clue what was going on. Apparently, there's reports coming out that players didn't know who was calling plays and who to listen to and who's scheming up what, and then you have other players that are saying we're just too bland and nothing's going right, and it's really hard to watch. Also, that offensive line last night just seemed tired, and that really sucks because they were supposed to have one of the better ones, and they only rushed like 12 times all game. It's like when you faced them week 3, you had 200 yards rushing. Like, why? Like
What
they
changed?
abandoned the run too early and just shot themselves in the foot, essentially, because then you lose Julio Jones to concussion, and your third and fourth string receivers aren't apparently as good as they think they are, because they showed why they're third stringers. It was it was sad for me to watch.
Yeah, I think one thing Philadelphia probably needs, obviously, mend whatever you got to mend with AJ Brown, because they definitely needed him last night. But find a good third option at receiver, because Devontae is good, but he just by himself last night couldn't do anything. They just covered him, and there was no one else for Hurts to throw to.
He still had 150 yards, though.
Right. But, I just think they need another receiver.
Yep.
Your nameplate today says thank you, Kelsey. It was his last game. Something when we kind of talked about, he kind of dabbled with that last year as well. But you feel pretty confident going into next season without Kelsey?
We'll have to see. I know that in 2022, I think it was, they did draft his replacement. So his replacement has been drafted for the last couple of years to learn under him and be able to develop with Hurts and that offensive line. So hopefully he can just slide in and we can get a little extra depth that we can maybe, I don't know, roll players in. I can't even make up other excuses for our secondary or anything because everyone was there, you know. So, yeah. I know Brendan Graham said he's coming back for 1 more year, but we might have lost Fletcher Cox to retirement as well. So we'll have to see. It's I think they need new coordinators, and I mean you can't really fire Nick Sirianni this early. I mean you can. I've seen coaches get fired for less, but 3 years, 3 playoff appearances, and a Super Bowl appearance. That tones for at least 1 more year in my mind. But coaches have been fired for less, so.
Right. And I think it's the first time I've seen visiting fans wearing paper bags.
Mm-hmm.
I was just like, for one, you paid way too much money to get to that football game to be wearing a paper bag. Like,
but our offense was that bad last night that it was our defense, held up for part of it, and showed, what they could have been. They had 2 or 3 sacks on Mayfield. They were getting in the backfield, but our offense just 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out, and it's just stalled.
right. Well, let's go to the Baker Mayfield side. Grayson, what are your thoughts for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers?
I'm just happy my boy Baker made it at least to another round. But with who he has to play in this next round, we'll we'll see what happens. But I think honestly, they could probably pull it out over Detroit and probably pull it off to the next round. I know that Detroit is definitely going to be one of the teams that they're going to have to beat. But if they're going to play like they did this week too, I think Baker's got it in the bag. But honestly, I think even though it was a heartbreaker for all Philly fans, which I feel for them because you're losing a lot of good players this year, you guys made a great run of it when you guys had the power to it, plus making the Super Bowl appearances. That's all you can ask for, to be honest with you. So hopefully whatever they take into the next season is still, applied, and the fan base and the team actually still stick to it. And hopefully they don't end up getting filled with drama in this interim of having to find replacements.
Right. Don't blow it up too soon. We've seen teams that get a little trigger happy.
Don't do it.
Oh, I was thinking of Denver. They've just gotten themselves in a money mess because they're too trigger happy. Scott, what are your thoughts on both of these teams from our Monday night game?
Well, I really kind of sad to see just how kind of lost Philadelphia has become. I was just talking about how great it was for Green Bay and for really Detroit to build up to this level of the season, but then to see the Eagles kind of going the opposite way, and as Brendan said, kind of having series where it's clear when they came out of the huddle that they weren't really sure what was the play or who was calling that play. Man, this is way too late in the season for having your players not actually know what is going on or where it's coming from. So I think there's going to be a lot of changes within Philadelphia. I agree, probably not Sirianni. I don't think it should be it's not his fault, but there's going to be a lot of other changes, I think, that are deservedly need to be done there in Philadelphia come before next season.
Right. Yeah. Coaching changes have been something that's been a hot topic. Obviously, it's that time of year. And when you got some of these big names out there, you got that Belichick name, you got Carroll, Coach Vrabel, as we talked about. I think a lot of teams could be thinking about that. I don't know. Dallas wouldn't surprise me. I honestly thought I know they kept certain coaches longer than they probably should have, but I am actually kind of shocked they haven't moved on from McCarthy.
That's what I thought about an hour ago. I was like, I'm shocked we haven't seen anything out of Philadelphia or Dallas about coaches being fired, because I thought McCarthy would have been fired way before now.
Right. Yeah, and I know some of their fans, especially some I follow, resisted posting anything because they thought the next morning they were going to hear that McCarthy was fired. So they're like, I'm just going to save it tomorrow and just let it all.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
I don't know. We could still see a couple more. I know, Brendan kind of alluded to it, maybe Sirianni. I don't know if the Eagles would do that, but, who knows? We've seen coaches get fired for making a divisional round. So stranger things have happened. So let's look at the week ahead. Brendan, any game right off the bat that stands out to you that you're looking forward to in this divisional round?
Kind of all of them. I think big one will be, Patrick Mahomes going to Buffalo for his first actual road game during the playoffs. He's played 16 games, and this is his first playoff road game, which is just ridiculous.
Kind of Brady-esque, right?
Yeah, and he's only 28, and we have 10 more years of him. Bob, how do you feel about that one?
No response. That says it all.
Exactly. That's what my grandpa said when he signed that contract too. He's like, great. But I think they can all be great. I'm kind of rooting for underdogs. I saw a post earlier today that was like, Super Bowl everyone wants is Houston Texans and Detroit Lions. I personally would love it and watch it. I know a lot of other people would not care at all. And it'd probably be the lowest watched Super Bowl, but
I don't know about that. I think the Super Bowl itself is a just event. It's kind of like WrestleMania, right? There's been some really stinkers of a WrestleMania card, but people will just go there to just say they went to the name, right? And just watch it because of the name. And so I think even if it was like Green Bay is a bigger market, but like a Houston, you can't even say Detroit because I think a lot of people, like, they're kind of pseudo America's team right now, right? Motor City, Dan Campbell and stuff. But I think if it was some of the lower seeds, I think people would still watch it. Now, if it was Taylor Swift in there, See, they could
she'll
have
only
the
be at the Super Bowl if the Chiefs make it.
Yeah, see, imagine if the Chiefs made it and she was the halftime show. Perfect.
Yeah.
Grayson, any matchups you're looking forward to this week?
First and foremost, Keegan, don't you ever put that evil on this chat ever again. All right. We don't need that. We don't want that.
We've already gone full Spider-Man Lotus. There's no going back.
I don't even want to be part of this chat anymore. No. Honestly, I want to see what happens between Detroit and Tampa Bay. I want to see my boy Baker make it all the way. At least give them a run for their money. Kind of as Brendan said, I'm looking forward to all of them. I will definitely be watching the Baltimore-Houston game very closely. I know they're going to come out swinging because they've had 2 weeks off, and they are – Lamar Jackson's good. I don't care who you are, especially after having to come off of just getting through the first round. You got to be ready for the Ravens because it's not – you can't just roll into that thinking that you're going to carry this momentum going forward because they're a brick wall. So I really do hope that Houston beats the Ravens and everybody in my division will be out of the playoffs. But it'll be really interesting. But the one that I will be definitely I will be making sure I go see is Tampa Bay and Detroit because I want to see Baker, I want to see how he does. And I really do hope he actually can make it past the second round and at least give it another shot.
Right. And Scott, what about you? Any matchup catching your eye?
Well, I agree. I think really they each have their own really little fun things to really kind of watch. It will be great watching the Ravens and Texans battle. That kind of see how that game goes. That's going to be interesting. We'll see how the Packers continue their streak going along against San Francisco, which has all been kind of the dominant team all season. Um, I agree with Grayson that the Buccaneers and Lions game will be fun with the kind of the quarterback challenge, and the same goes with the Bills and Chiefs. Again, it's a good quarterback challenge to see which one comes out on top. So I think we got a really good slate of games this coming weekend.
Right, and I think they should at least be closer than last week's, in theory, at least.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
That's
Thank
my
you.
goal. Hey, at least keep it interesting. Like that Lions game, I think it was so good too because you felt it almost slipping away from the Lions, and the Rams were just hitting on all cylinders, and you're just like, for me, I was like, this is the drive. This is when they're going to do it. But the Lions stepped up, and I hope we see more of that. And I think close matchups, and I will say, making the thumbnail for this one, the AFC side, not so surprising outside maybe the Texans being the Final Four. The NFC side, maybe, the Lions, Bucks, 49ers, Packers. Outside the 49ers, perhaps not the teams you thought would be there. So I'm excited to kind of have more of a fresher, young take on the at least NFC side. But Bobby, we're going to start with you
Okay.
and picking. So let's see, Saturday, 2:30 p.m. We got the Texans traveling to Baltimore. Who you got?
Houston's going to take Baltimore out. I hope so. I hope. That's why I want to see Houston do it.
Shane says, I'm not saying they'll make it, but I'm rooting for the Texans. Shane, I think a good amount of people are. I can't because they're playing Baltimore, who's got my boy Lamar Jackson. We all know I can't root against Cardinals, but Brendan, what about you? Texans, Ravens.
I want to say Texans. I agree. I'm rooting for them, but I think Baltimore will win. They're also getting their tight end back, so I know Likely did a really good job in his place, but you can't replace their tight end. Yeah. He's one of the better ones, especially for Lamar, and so having him back and having him have an extra week this week, bye week, to get back healthy. I know he was practicing before the wild card games, but having that extra week will be good. So I think Baltimore will to win probably by 10, but I think Texans will hang in there, try to make it interesting.
Grayson, what about you? Texans, Ravens.
As much as it pains me to say, I am a pragmatist. The Ravens will probably win this game, but I really do hope the Texans can pull it out. As I said, this is a big battle for them. If they can pull it off, they're going to go all the way to the Super Bowl. That's honestly how I feel. But yeah, I'm picking the Ravens.
And Scott.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Ravens. I think just about everybody will be hoping for the Texans. I think probably they'll be if we're checking out on the booking thing. I bet the majority of bets will go on to the Texans, but I think the Ravens will be the overall victor on this one.
Yeah, and you guys know I'm not going to pick against Lamar. I even had to pick him against Seattle. But yeah, I think the Ravens are complete on offense and defense. They had struggles early, but as the season went on, they just kind of got stronger and stronger. Against divisional teams, they did have losses, but comes with all divisional teams. You guys know each other more than anyone. And, I just think they pull us off, so give me Baltimore. Which sets up our other Saturday matchup. Green Bay traveling to San Francisco. Scott, who do you think is going to pull this one out?
Yeah, no, this is going to pretty much be the Packers. I think pretty much throughout the game. I don't think it's going to be a blowout, but I think that I'm sorry, the 49ers. I think this will be the 49ers pretty much in control the entire gateway. I don't think it's going to be as much of a blowout as what we saw this past week, but I don't. I think it'll definitely be the 49ers throughout the game, pretty much. It'll be close, but it'll definitely be the 49ers.
Bobby, what about you?
I went with San Francisco. It'll be close, but there's too much Brock Purdy. San Francisco wins this game.
Brendan?
I think that San Francisco is just more of a complete team right now. I don't know. The Packers they're a good Cinderella story. They'll be around for a lot of years, but a lot of the 49ers have been there, done that. They've gotten this far and they've beaten this, so yeah.
Grayson?
Here's the thing. All the stats are in San Francisco's corner, plus they've had the last week off, so they're coming in fresh. All I can say is it happens every year. I don't know if it's going to be Tampa Bay or if it's going to be Houston against Baltimore, but I think there is going to be a wild card that comes out of nowhere. Plus, Green Bay has just for some reason always been that last little hurdle for San Francisco to overcome. So I'm just going to say this one, I'm going to pick a wild one and go with Green Bay.
I like it because I am also taking Green Bay in this one. I don't know. Earlier in the year, I probably would have said San Francisco. Obviously, the teams were much different, but a lot of times it's about the team that gets hot in the playoffs. We've seen terrible Giants teams win a Super Bowl just because they were hot at the right time. And I'm not saying Green Bay is going to win the Super Bowl, but I think the curse of sitting players and being off a week, I think it's going to catch up this week. They lost to the Rams team. Give me Green Bay. All right, so Sunday, first game of the day. Grayson, I'll give this one to you first. Tampa Bay or Detroit? Who do you got?
I'm taking Tampa Bay. I'm backing my boy Baker, and we're going to see what happens. So give me Tampa Bay because I think they're going to make it.
Brendan.
I'm going Motor City all the way. I want Detroit to go to the Super Bowl. So I'm hopping on that train.
Bobby.
Detroit, too much Jared Goff. Detroit's got a good offense. Goff's going to throw probably 3 or 4 touchdowns.
Scott.
Yeah, I'm going with Detroit too. I'm also going with the San Francisco line have the 12th man behind them. I think being that they'll be playing in Motor City, that's what's going to say that's going to drive the engine. They're definitely there in Motor City. That's what it's going to be. It's going to be the fans. That'll be the key.
Grayson, I'm with you on this one as well. I picked Tampa Bay last week. I don't know. I felt something about them, and as much like I said last week, I want the Lions to win, but I feel like I gotta pick Tampa Bay. The way they're playing defense, Baker's coming alive. Some of those unknown wide receivers were coming alive, just catching touchdowns. And just seeing how the second half performance was for both teams, I think if it goes that similar way, it's going to be a close one still, but I think Tampa Bay will eke it out and, at least in my predictions, give us 2 low seeds for that championship round.
I got one more thing to say about Tampa Bay, too. I think that Baker definitely has something to prove. You can see it in the way he's playing, especially in the offseason. So Baker's hungry, and when Baker is hungry, he performs. So I think that's honestly going to give him the win in the very end.
Right. Well, and when Baker's against the wall, he usually performs pretty well.
Absolutely.
They were showing some of that. And I know they were kind of saying it was similar to the Browns' victory, right, when they went over Pittsburgh. But how do you feel with Tampa Bay's team compared to that Cleveland team?
I think Tampa Bay was the perfect spot for Baker because after Brady left, they built the team around Brady. I think Baker is just as good of a quarterback as Brady is. He has had some problems, but I think that was coaching more than anything that tried to mess him up for whatever reason. But he walked into a team that was set up for the way he plays, and I think that is what's going to make the difference in this game.
Yeah. I've always been a fan of Baker. As you remember, my mini quest to get him on Seattle when they were trading Russ. Final game of the week, Kansas City, Buffalo. Bobby, who you taking?
I'm going Buffalo. Jared Allen, man. I see
Josh
Jared
Allen?
Allen ending Kansas City's playoff hopes.
No, Josh Allen. Jared Allen played for the Chiefs, Bobby.
Josh Allen, yep. I see Josh Allen knocking Kansas City off, which I hope they do.
Scott, what about you?
Yeah, I think I'm going with the Bills in this one. For some reason, I kind of grew up as a Chiefs fan back in the late '60s, early '70s. Was kind of a Chiefs fan, but I'm gonna go with the Bills here. I'm actually going to stretch out to say that could be the year that the Bills finally get to hold on to the Lombardi Trophy. I watched all those Bills teams be in the Super Bowl and watch them go down. So I'm going to sit there and say this will be the Bills team that's going to take it all. That's my hot take for this tournament.
Brendan, what about you?
I think Buffalo. It's going to be a little warmer. It's going to be 24 instead of -5.
Can't be much colder, could it? It's not going to be that much colder.
I don't know. You're talking about Buffalo.
Hey, those fans were having a lot of fun sledding down the stadium.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that Buffalo can get cold.
Yeah.
But anyways, I do think Buffalo will be able to win. They are in Buffalo this time. The Chiefs have one of the better defenses Patrick Mahomes has ever played with, but I don't think that offense is good enough to keep up. I know we had a good game in Kansas City earlier this year, but I think playoff time in Buffalo is a little different than middle of December in Kansas when it's still 60 degrees.
Right. Grayson, what about you?
Honestly, I'm picking the Bills. I think Scott and Brandon are right. The Chiefs have been to the Super Bowl, 3 times in the last 5 years? And this team is tired. This team is worn through. They do have a great defense. Patrick Mahomes is still on point, but this team is starting to reach its breaking point. And I think because of that, the Bills finally have the perfect time to actually perform and get them off the road. But I'm also really just hoping for that because I'm really sick to death of hearing about Taylor Swift being in attendance at the game. Oh my God, it needs to stop.
Yep.
I side with Al Michaels. It needs to be about the sport, not Taylor Swift. It's not a TMZ tabloid. It's not any of this. Focus on the game. Nobody cares about Taylor Swift except for Swifties.
Yeah.
Let's be real. Anyway, I'm picking the Bills because I do think they are a better team.
I think we should have a Taylor Swift versus Eminem Super Bowl.
The difference is they showed Eminem like twice.
Not every single down. And there's Taylor Swift in attendance.
Yeah, and then the announcer was like, I leaned my camera over.
Oh, it's been 5 minutes. Oh, look, here's Taylor Swift looking at her phone, talking about Travis Kelce. This is crazy.
Can't even see her because the box was so frozen over, so foggy because everyone's breathing on the glass. You can't even see her.
Yeah, and I'm gonna give us our first clean sweep of the playoffs. Give me Buffalo as well. I don't know. They're hot as well. We talk about that a lot as teams get hot. And that Chiefs wide receivers, I know Rice kind of came alive this week, but I just don't see them coming alive that well, especially against a team, even if it's cold, that's accustomed to playing in the cold. They had the chance to make their new stadium a dome, and they didn't. But I think the Chiefs win and set up a matchup for me that would be very interesting. As you have a Louisville quarterback going against a Wyoming quarterback, and I'm going to be very torn in that game. But there's our divisional picks. So if you guys disagree, tell us why in the comments below, because we want to hear exactly what we got wrong or right. If you said we were on point, you're a Tampa fan or a Green Bay fan, tell us in the comments below. Scotty, how did your guys' team do? We did not make it up. I did not traverse too much this weekend.
Well, we're doing okay. We're doing okay. We're getting by. We're kind of talking about. We'll talk about coaches. I'll go back to go to my alma mater. We finally have a football coach, Curt Cignetti, coming in. He's. It seems like he's sucking up everybody from James Madison, or James Madison is flowing to Bloomington, Indiana. We'll exactly see how football turns around, and at Old Indiana. One of the best things I like about Curt Cignetti, he said shortly after being announced as a football coach, went to a basketball game, took off the mic, and said, "Hey, we all know that Purdue sucks, but you know what? Michigan and Ohio State suck too." So he's already put down the gauntlet. He's put down the line. Says, "Okay, Michigan, Ohio State, come on, try to cross our line now. We'll see how it goes. It's going to be a different football season come Indiana time. That's going to be great."
Yes, no, that'll definitely be good. The right coach. Cardinals saw it this year. Brom came in and just kind of turned around. Probably gave the best new coaching of the NCAA season. Not that I'm biased. I actually saw other people say it as well. So, Brendan, what's your outlook? We had a guest on last night by the name of Brett Hendricks, who was from Texas, and talked about how football is almost a religion there. So I wanted to get your update on the University of Texas.
Yeah, I mean, I drive through there sometimes, and their high school stadiums are better than some of the college stadiums I've seen around, the United States. I feel pretty good. We'll see. We're losing a lot of our receiving core, so we'll see. I know a couple receivers have transferred, especially I think one transferred from Alabama, or decommitted from Alabama, I should say, after the Nick Saban retirement. I know we signed our coach to however many more years. I don't remember the number. So he'll stick around for a few more years, which I do like. He's brought a winning culture back to Texas and put him, Texas is back on the map. So it should be fun next year going to the SEC, and we get to play teams like Michigan. We were able to beat Alabama this year, but last year when we faced the Razorbacks in Arkansas, they demolished us. So, it's kind of mixed feelings on how we're going to do there. So, yeah, it should be exciting.
Right. Yeah. Well, speaking of people committing, I saw Goldberg's son committed to CU, so we can have that dream halftime matchup of Goldberg versus Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. WWE, please set that up. Hey, you know they would do it. You saw how crazy Boulder was last year. Grayson, do you have any hot takes about CU last year?
Incredibly overhyped and incredibly underdelivered. I think Deion Sanders is going to be definitely a huge money grab for this school. They'll have a lot of people that want to go there to play for Deion Sanders, and it's going to be, it's going to be good for the school's bottom line. But I don't think he's going to be the coach they're looking for. Even if he did start out the year with 4-0 record, it quickly went downhill very fast. So I don't think that he's going to be what they're looking for. But he will get players and possible talent in the door, but it doesn't mean that he's going to know what to do with it.
And I think if one thing we learned from last year, they'll probably make sure that CSU on prime time, because I thought there was going to be some fist fighting going on in those games.
I mean, with how much jury and watches they were flashing out there, it was almost basically like a fashion show. I'm like, good Lord, what's happening?
Oh, man, it was such a crazy, crazy time up in Boulder. But we got to go up there, Brendan. They have a full-size Triceratops. After the Smithsonian stole their Triceratops, we finally got another one. So shame on you, Smithsonian. Grayson, any big news in pop culture, movies or anything this week?
Pop culture news, nothing that I really know of. It's more internet culture, what I've been following, and it's pretty funny. If you don't know, there's this guy named Verbalace, who is just a beatboxer who has a YouTube channel. It recently dropped that he paid $50,000 to have a animated music video made of him and another cartoon character, and his cartoon character for his videos that he makes basically have a romantic music video together. So that has been definitely the highlight of my week. It has been hilarious. But
I did not know about that.
If you're looking just for something to laugh at from afar, it's worth checking out. But at the same time, you may not like what you see, and you may not want to look it up at all. But that's been tickling my funny bone lately. But other than that, just kind of nothing really on the horizon. I've been, looking forward to, I forget what's coming out most recently, but yeah, nothing that I know of other than the Emmys were this week as well, but I didn't really watch that because I don't really care. But
from what I heard, no one got slapped, so
that's just a tragedy right there.
I was about to say that's disappointing.
Look, that's the only reason we tune into the Emmys or the Oscars, all right?
Right. Hey, what about what is it? Monument Mythos?
That
is that still going?
From what I can tell, yeah, they just wrapped up like season 2, which was like basically a reboot of the series, which gets really trippy, but it's still going right now from what I can tell. But I've been basically following this. I don't know if anybody on here knows what it is, but a very favorite creator of mine that's on the, he's starting to hit it like big. He's like doing stuff with Moist Critical and a bunch of other people, is Wendigoon. He's started a couple of podcasts. One of them is called the Red Thread, which they talk about just like cryptids and stuff like that, and do like a whole dissection of the entire story and mythos and do a whole deep dive. And then he does another podcast with Meat Canyon. They talk about like horror stories and creepypastas and stuff from like the beginning of the internet and stuff like that. And it's a fun trip now in nostalgia lane while watching a bunch of my favorite creators, just crack jokes about, the stories of cryptids and, just other stuff from the past. So it's a lot of fun.
I'll have to check that one out. Speaking of deep dives, some shameless self-promotion. We are working towards a Birdman deep dive, which Grayson will be on for. And then we're going to be doing Django Unchained with author James B. Mills, famed Billy the Kid historian. And then maybe we'll do the entire Spider-Man series, Spider-Man 1, 2, 3, The Amazing Spider-Mans 1 and 2, and then all of the MCU Spider-Mans. So just so we can do a live tier listing with you guys. I will say I learned of something quite interesting this week, and it's apparently that there's mangas with DC characters, and apparently there's a Spider-Man one too. But the Superman one is just him going to Japan for lunch, and what he does getting lunch. Which I was like, this just sounds so absurd that I almost want to check it out. There's Joker. Somehow Batman turns into a baby, and he has to raise the Batman as a baby. Yeah, they're quite strange. So yeah, maybe I'll read those for you guys and let you know. Uh, Brendan, what about you? Anything catching your eye this week?
Not really. We'll just see how the week goes. If anything comes up or anything, I am on call this weekend, so it'll pretty much just be a stay at home and watch the games.
Right. Try not to freeze. Though I think it's supposed to be warmer, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're supposed to be in the 20s, and I know it's supposed to be like a high of 42 on Tuesday next week, so
7 feet of
we're getting
snow,
up
right?
there.
Ugh.
Yep, exactly.
I know, Brendan, I know. I was actually thinking back to that because Madison, Wisconsin was brought up, and then I was talking about that Susan Messino interview. I was like, oh, that's like where half that interview took place was in Madison, Wisconsin with AC/DC and Van Halen and stuff. Bobby, what about you? Anything fun catching your eye this week?
It's gonna watch the games, probably.
Anything exciting in the world of wrestling?
No,
Outside, I heard apparently Mr.
I'm-
Seth Rollins got hurt this Monday night.
Yeah, I guess so. I want to
Well,
see some. This month or next week. Somebody's coming back. I think there's going to be a few surprises at the Royal Rumble.
Grayson, were you going to say something?
I was going to say on the subject of wrestling, I just was looking it up while we were talking, but Hulk Hogan apparently rescued some girl from a overturned car in Tampa, so he's on his comeback tour.
Yeah, he's got to do a lot to earn favorability after some of those tapes came out. Allegedly.
That's a big allegation right there.
Hey, everyone knows about it. If you know, you know. Yeah, so kind of a slow week, but I don't know. We'll catch back up with you guys next week and hopefully another exciting playoff week. Hopefully better than the week that was.
Yeah.
We had one close game last week. I hope all of these are close, exciting games. I think some of them have the ability to be some shootouts. I think Houston-Baltimore could be high scoring. I think the Green Bay-San Francisco game could be high scoring.
Yep.
So I think it should be really, really fun. Only other thing I wanted to say was this week Brian Barczyk as well as Drew Gomber passed away. People that we didn't work with a ton, but some of our friends knew, especially in the world of Reptiles and Billy the Kid. So I just want to give a shout out. Just a little memento there. But before we end, any last words, Grayson?
Nothing really. Hopefully I'm here next week, but if not, keep on keeping on.
If not, we'll see you in a movie review, right?
Exactly.
Brandon, what about you? Any last thoughts before we end off?
Nope. Thank God there's hockey, though.
Hey, we saw Josh Allen at a hockey game, so.
Yeah, exactly.
Bobby, any last thoughts before we end off?
Hey, you guys doing burgers Friday night somewhere? Or?
I don't know. Yeah, for those of you who don't know, who only watch YouTube,
I'm in.
we did film our first episode of Best Burgers in Colorado this past Friday, and in our upcoming interview that will go live next Friday, we got a little recommendation from a musician who owns a restaurant / dance hall in Fort Collins. So I'm sure you might catch us up there at some point this year. Scott, any last thoughts before we end off?
Nope. So again, it's going to be a quiet weekend, and hopefully we finish it with four really great games come this weekend. It'll be fun.
Right. Yeah, give us some really fun topics to talk about next week. But until next time, guys, more cool sports chat to your left. On your right will probably be that Culz interview that went live. We got hopefully a double feature if I can get my act together coming this Friday. And don't forget to hit that like and give us a subscribe. And again, let us know who's winning this week.